red dress. He will eventually sponsor her relocation to the Gap, where she receives education, social training, and clothing available in turn-of-the-century Appalachia. As the story progresses, June is sent to Lexington, Kentucky for higher education. Here she resides with Hale's sister. Eventually, she is sent to New York City, where the metamorphosis from backwoods scamp to sophisticated young lady is completed. It is this refined, beautiful, and educated sophisticate that is Fox's secondary portrayal of June Tolliver. The resemblance of this second incarnation of June Tolliver to John Fox Jr.'s real-life love interest, the Austrian operatic diva and New Yorker Fritzi Scheff, cannot be denied. Of course, this becomes the ultimate irony of the novel. As June is transformed into a full-fledged, sophisticated lady about town, Hale descends more and more into uncivilized Appalachian-styled austerity back home in the Gap. By the story's end, the novel's two main characters, still embroiled in their romance, have virtually reversed their respective roles. Under such ironical circumstance, can their love be reconciled? You'll have to read the book to find out. It is the first portrayal of June that can be explored for a corresponding real-life figure as part of the character's basis in regard to Devil John Wright. The primary criteria can be based on one simple contention. June is the biological daughter of Devil Judd Tolliver. Devil Judd is based on Devil John. Therefore, June Tolliver must be based in part on a real-life daughter of Devil John Wright that John Fox Jr. would have encountered and was apparently indelibly impressed with during his many visits to Devil John's home. Adding to a criteria of a corresponding real-life daughter of Devil John's and narrowing the choices would be June's depicted age. As previously stated, the heroine June gives damning testimony at Bad Ruth's trial, resulting in his conviction and subsequent hanging. It is known that the actual event corresponding to this is the trial and execution of Bad Talt Hall. These events actually took place in 1892. The novel's narrative spans a time frame of approximately 8 years from June's introduction to the trial. She is originally portrayed as an adolescent of 14 to 16 years old. This results in a 22 to 24-year-old June Tolliver testifying at her foster uncle's trial. By simply doing the math working backwards, an approximate birth year for whichever of Devil John's daughters June is based upon can be calculated. This would be a span between the late 1860s up to 1870 for a possible birth year of any real-life daughter of Devil John's to be a basis for the June Tolliver character. Preferably, this would include a daughter born in the month of June or possessing a first name that might precipitate Fox choosing to change the actual name to June. In regard to the daughters of Devil John, there seems to actually be two candidates meeting the birth year and other historical criteria for June Tolliver. Now, there have long been those who, for whatever reasons, have maintained that Fox's heroine is a completely fictional construct. It's hard to see how this can be the case. John Fox Jr. seems to employ the local color genre style of blending plural real-life sources in virtually all of his characterizations. This was done with few exceptions. For example, in regard to June, the character is portrayed as having blonde hair. While it is true that none of Devil John's daughters had blonde hair, Fox's wife, Fritzi Scheff, was famously blonde-headed. It must be remembered, the Trail of the Lonesome Pine was actually dedicated to Fritzi Scheff. The contention that John Fox Jr.'s most famous character, June Tolliver, is completely made up seems to be unfounded. Beyond all this, there is an additional, somewhat disconcerting factor that must be included in the criteria of a real-life daughter of Devil John's being an inspiration for June Tolliver. Consider the following excerpt taken from the February 5, 1931 memorial article regarding Devil John Wright, appearing in the Mountain Eagle newspaper in Letcher County, Kentucky. During the day on Sunday, as many as 2,000 people visited the old home of John Wright, attended the funeral services, and viewed the remains. People who knew him came from hundreds of miles distant. His daughter, June, one of John Fox's characters, came in from Pennsylvania. The reason for this seemingly conclusive report being somewhat disconcerting regarding a real-life source for Fox's character is fourfold. First, none of Devil John's daughters were named June. Second, all of the children of Devil John in attendance at his funeral were photographed posing by his casket. The newspaper article goes on to report this photographing of his children. The problem is that all of those in the picture are easily identified. None of the women meet any reasonable criteria for June, and none of them were from Pennsylvania. Thirdly, there is absolutely no report or tradition within the Wright family of any of Devil John's daughters being the basis for June Tolliver. Much less would be the lack of report or tradition of the presence of such a person at his funeral within the family. The family simply made no such claim. Lastly, this excerpt is taken from the same article where some facts regarding Devil John Wright are made which may be erroneous. This would include the contention of Devil John's presence at the Battle of Shiloh during the Civil War. The article's contention, however, simply can't be ignored and is cautiously added here. The first daughter of Devil John Wright that may be a contender as the inspiration for June Tolliver is a woman named Easter Wright. While Easter would not have been a teenager when first encountered by John Fox Jr., being born in 1884, she would have been June's depicted age at the 1908 publication of the book. Her name, Easter, with its spring-like connotation, can't be ignored as being so proximal to the spring-like name of June. The second and best contender for Fox's inspiration is the seldom referred to, virtually unknown daughter fathered by Devil John with Margaret Austin. This daughter is the somewhat mysterious Mahala Wright. This person is mysterious because there is a conspicuous lack of recorded facts regarding her. Her inclusion as a possible basis for the June Tolliver character is simple. She is the one and only daughter by Devil John that fits the criteria of being a teenager when Fox could have first encountered her. Mahala was born in 1866. This would have made the girl about 19 years old when Fox could have presumably met her in 1885. Obviously, this renders an age within a couple of years of that depicted in the June Tolliver character. This is especially true when the date of the trial and June's dramatized testimony is considered. Mahala, whose name is a Creek Indian word meaning beautiful, would have been the one and only daughter of Devil Johns in their mid-20s, just as June is portrayed during the 1892 trial. Additionally would be the name Mahala. It is doubtful that Fox would have considered such a uniquely Native American name to be a good fit for his heroine. It can only be surmised that Fox wouldn't confuse his readers, who still held strong negative biases against Native Americans, by depicting his main character with her real Native American Christian name of Mahala. Regardless, the mystery surrounding Mahala Wright endures as it does for the indomitable June Tolliver. The final aspect of the Trail of the Lonesome Pine to be explored is the novel's namesake, the Lonesome Pine itself. Some maintain that the Lonesome Pine was merely a romantic plot device, there never was any such tree. Some have scanned the many ridges encircling Big Stone Gap, Virginia, in hopes of spying the telltale crown of the tree towering above all others. Others claim it resided at the summit of Pine Mountain in Letcher County, Kentucky. Still others have asserted that it existed farther west in Kentucky's Bluegrass region. It has even been reported as being somewhere in Tennessee's Smoky Mountains. Was there ever a real Lonesome Pine? Can we know where it originally was? Can we ascertain its current whereabouts? Incredible as it may seem, the answer to all of these questions is a resounding yes. The famous tree is described in Fox's novel as standing like a conspicuously tall, lone sentinel at the summit of a mountain. At the base of this mountain is located the Tolliver homestead in Lonesome Cove on Lonesome Creek, both ostensibly named for the Lonesome Pine. The opposite side of this mountain faces a large gap in the opposing ridge of mountains. Within this gap lay the small mountain community known as the Gap, from which the giant evergreen could be seen by all. It is his curiosity regarding such an improbable landmark — most trees atop windy mountains can't grow very tall — that evokes newcomer to the Gap, engineer Jack Hale, to climb the trail leading from the Gap to the auspicious tree. Simultaneously, a young mountain girl named June Tolliver has sneaked from Lonesome Cove to climb to the tree. Here she views the Gap and considers the big, unknown world laying beyond the little town, represented by the endless rolling ridges stretched to the horizon. It is the unlikely meeting of Jack and June at the Lonesome Pine that sparks the timeless romantic story unveiled in the novel. When John Fox Jr. and Devil John began their friendship, Devil John maintained no less than 2 homes. The primary of these would be the home on Elkhorn Creek in Letcher County, Kentucky. As stated, here Devil John's only neighbors were his brother Samuel and his wife Martha, who ran a grist mill off of the creek. This is undoubtedly the basis for the Tolliver homestead presented in the novel as Lonesome Cove on Lonesome Creek. However, this can't be considered as the location for the Lonesome Pine. There is no mountain just above the home where one could climb to view an opposing mountain gap. There is no adjacent town to be viewed, even if such a peak existed. The second notable home maintained by Devil John, and where Fox would spend the majority of time visiting, was located just outside the modern-day town of Pound in Wise, Virginia. Here, Devil John's home was situated by a creek at the base of the mountain forming the eastern flank of Horse Gap. At the top of the peak above Devil John's home, one is presented with a view of an opposing mountain gap, the town laying within that gap, and endless rolling ridges stretching to the horizon. The mountain above Devil John's old home place at Horse Gap, just outside the town previously known as the Pound Gap, is littered like no other adjoining peak with pine trees. While Devil John was aware of the celebrity accorded to him by the Trail of the Lonesome Pine, he reportedly never read the book that was his greatest claim to fame. During the novel's initial popularity, Devil John simply remained involved in land dealing, law enforcement, and, unfortunately, logging on his property. He simply did not realize that standing atop the land he owned at Horse Gap stood one of the most famous pieces of lumber in American history, the Lonesome Pine. An article released by the Associated Press upon the death of Devil John in 1931 contains an excerpt from an interview conducted with him at the home at Horse Gap just outside Pound, Virginia. It reads as follows.